In today's letter, I'd like to go through the power struggle that us men and women often find ourselves in relationship. And when we have the initial cocktail of delicious connection with each other, it's a coming together, and it can be intoxicating, and it's a wonderful experience. And that melting together is where we become one, so to speak, and we really connect. And then after a couple of weeks and a couple of months, what will start to happen is we'll start to settle into a dynamic where we're going to want to pull away from each other again, to have a greater sense of ourselves again. And this is where a lot of people struggle, is once we've had that initial connection, and us men have really felt close to you, and we've connected with you, and maybe there's been love making, we're going to want to pull away. And it's when those initial pulling away start to happen that we find most relationships begin to fail. It's in these moments that we then are exposed as far as our communication style, how we resolve conflicts, how emotionally mature we are, how many issues we have with attachments with each other. And it's where the relationship gets under the microscope. It's how we navigate through that part of the relationship that we then either come back together as stronger, more individual people, or do we then dig our heels in and now it becomes me versus you? Right, so that transition between the initial coming together, then the separation, back into your individual selves, to feel more of yourselves, to start to do more of what you want to do because you're comfortable, you feel safe. I'm in a relationship now, so now I can get back to that hobby, or I can do this, or I can travel here, I can do this with other friends. It's in those moments, in that transition, as I've said, that is important for us to understand and to go forward in a healthy relationship. This all comes down to how importantly you have viewed your own development as far as your own self-care and your own self-love, meaning how much do you see yourself in the other person versus how much do you see yourself. What I mean by this is, are you located in the other person? What I mean is, do you allow them to become the authority and dictate to you how much you are okay? Or have you been able to do that on your own? So when I work with couples and women, when they are initially dating and they're going into relationships, it's all about building that reserve within themselves around self-love and self-care, so that their tank is really full and they have an experience of, let's say, 50% intimacy with their partner, but again, the other 50% is with themselves. And that's really the balance. So if you can do that and work on that on a more regular basis, you will have a far better transition and less of a power struggle with your partner as you transition through this phase of pulling away. Another thing that's crucially important is to become very aware of your needs at this time, and when you feel your partner pulling away, is to communicate what your needs are and how it's important to get those met on a regular basis. And when your partner is pulling away, do they still have the capacity to meet me in my needs? Because that's a real big green flag and a healthy sign of a mature person. So I don't mind you pulling away and going away with your friends for a weekend, but what I love more is that you were able to, in inverted commas, include me in that experience, and I felt safe with you still. And that comes down to great communication in and around understanding your own needs with yourself. So it's about getting to know what your needs are. And often your needs are going to be around space versus distance. Okay? How much space do you need and how much distance do you need? And how do you communicate that on a regular basis? So this is an insight into that power struggle phase of relationships. Thanks for taking part in today's letter, and thank you for all that you are.